a good story to tell.
Welcome back, everyone. That was my wife just running in the background. We were dealing with a bit of an emergency. There was a massive cockroach. Anyways, I'm going to make today's live pretty short. Wow, we already have 7 viewers. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I'm going to send over the link for profiles to review. I have 2 for us to take a look at today. One is actually from a freshman in college. So we'll take a look at, for those of you guys who are thinking about transferring, I can totally help with that. We are publishing a guide very soon. Hey, Gore-Tex Warrior, nice to see you again. So the other thing that I wanted to send over, and I'll attach all these links in the comment section. Thanks, Hunt. Afterwards is the new admissions rubric that we created. And again, this rubric works wonders, whether you are a sophomore, junior, senior, freshman, thinking about grad school, medical school, law school, you name it. Let me send it over. In the meantime, yeah, let me know who's here. Say hello. Let me know where you guys are from. Let me know what grade you're in. That's super helpful so that I can kind of tailor my live to help you guys better. What's good, AC Walker? I think you might be new. Okay. Here's the link to the rubric, the elevated admissions rubric. We have 10 active viewers. Wow, I'm so honored. And yeah, super excited to show over the profile of 2 kids. 1 second. I'm only using a single monitor today, so things are a little bit crazy. But let me share my screen. Share screen. Oh, E-Family, 11th grade, Pennsylvania. Here's Malik. Oh, thanks for making time. Nice for European viewers. You guys are welcome. All right. So I think it's working now. You guys can see my screen. And yeah, just to get this really point across for those of you guys who want to 10x your odds, like I can't stress this enough, but really to improve your odds of getting into whatever dream school you want. It's not a mystery. It's not a black box. The first thing you guys want to focus on are your academics. That's like no ifs, ands, or buts. However, a lot of people think that academics are just getting great grades. Standardized test scores matter a lot these days. They used to not be required during COVID, but they brought them back. For international students, they're more of a nice to have. They're not actually that essential because they know that to take the tests, many of you guys have to travel to a different city or even country to take the SAT or ACT. What also helps communicate academic rigor, which I feel like a lot of people don't know, are these national or international honors. Now, this can take the form of many different competitions. This could be an Olympiad. This could be you publishing research. This could be a recommendation letter from a professor vouching for you, or from your teacher saying that, hey, this is one of the most academically gifted students. This could be you participating in very prestigious summer programs or research opportunities in high school or college. So there's many different ways to showcase academics, not just, hey, I have a good GPA. This is probably the most important box in this whole rubric. Like the 2 most important words are truly unusual. It's actually better to be truly unusual than to like lead a bunch of organizations. By truly unusual, especially if you're gunning for like Ivies, Harvard, Yale, they literally used to have a question. Yale, for example, had a question that said, tell us how you're and. Like Yale has this interdisciplinary collaborative spirit of and. Tell us how you're an exceptional like blank and blank and blank, right? So for me, I was like a breakdancing diplomat and somebody who really liked literature, Spanish literature in particular. So that's how I made my personal brand, very different and unique, especially compared to like a bajillion other Asian dudes. All right. And then rec letters, super key. Rec letters are actually more important than personal essays. Cool. And yeah, even just going from a 2 to a 1 can quite literally double your odds of getting accepted. So for some of you, like I've had kids who took a gap year and they just did their best at nailing this, reapplied to the school where they were waitlisted or deferred, and schools pay attention to that. And if you apply a second or third time, they're more likely to give you the desired acceptance results. Yeah. So let me take a look at some of the questions that you guys might be having over here. I'm from Georgia. Yeah, just thinking about a gap year. Thanks for making time. Nice for European viewers. You guys are very welcome. Let me know your guys' questions, and I will show the profiles of 2 students. And then we're going to talk about where they fit on the rubric, how to improve their odds. But again, let me know if you're a junior, senior. If you're a junior, the number 1 thing that you should be focusing on is building your profile. Like these next 6 months, adding 1 or 2 national awards to your belt. These don't have to be academic. They can be a sports award. They can be a volunteering award. that helps a lot. Question from Malik, does online schooling affect the decision? You just have to make sure your online schooling looks really legit. Like there's some that look a little bit funky, and then there's some crazy legit programs like Stanford Online High School. Some summer programs, which are pretty prestigious, are online. If it makes sense if you're like an international student and you can only attend the online program, then you should mention that. For CS, is it worth the time to get USICO Gold? So these are the types of questions that I get all the time, and it's not a yes or no question. It's kind of like, where else are you going to apply that time, right? Do a lot of your other extracurriculars already show your excellence at coding, excuse me? If you already have published 3 CS research articles and you don't need to spend another 50 to 100 hours grinding to get USICO Gold, it would be better to get a volunteering award or even like pick up something crazy like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it's not so simple as like, hey, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? If like it takes you 5 hours and you just have to push through a little bit more, your confidence level at winning something like USICO Gold is very high. It helps. I will say there's some schools which really, really love USICO. That would be Stanford and MIT. There's like a crazy trend where like most of the kids who did USICO Gold went into MIT. Really high correlation. I'm going to keep this kind of short. I have a crazy flight tomorrow at 4 a.m. And so my wife is trying to spend some more time with me this afternoon. So this live will just be here for another 10, 15 minutes. Ask all the questions you guys have. And yeah, let's take a look at some students who submitted their request to have me review their extracurriculars and their essays. We'll talk about how to improve it. And I feel like going through these case studies are super helpful for you guys. All right. And if you want to schedule a free intro call with me, fortunately, very available this spring. So I would just visit our website here and we can schedule a free intro call. All right. Here it is, elevated.school/get-started. Yeah, really quick question from Gore-Tex Warrior, which is like, how do you go from a low GPA to a perfect grade? How does it look? This is exactly what happened to me. Like I started off with a very mid GPA, below average GPA, and then I just got steadily better. And yeah, colleges will give you some grace, especially if you took a gap year, you're transferring, they understand that, you know, you might have had a slow start. What really matters is like true perfection when it comes to the grades and the rigor. Like you want to take the hardest possible courses. You want to show that you went above and beyond. I had a student who took the entire Harvard CS 50 course. It's like, I think hundreds of hours of lectures and videos. And then he took more. I think he even took, let me see if I can share my screen, but I don't know if you guys knew this. There's a bunch of, excuse me, let me share my screen. Maybe I'll just share my window. Is this working? Okay. Yeah, so if you go to Harvard CS 50, they have a 2.3 million subscribers. You can watch every single, basically like computer science course, MIT OpenCourseWare. You know, if you guys are thinking of applying early to these schools, 6 million subscribers, you can watch literally any lecture on any topic. Yale has one, mainly for the humanities. Stanford has one, Harvard has them. So yeah, if you guys are interested in these schools, check these out. And then when you are literally writing like, hey, why do you want to attend Yale? And they say, tell us about an intellectual idea that excites you. You can say, oh, I'm really interested in New Testament history. And I like, you know, watch Dale B. Martin's 26 video lecture series. You'll be the only student who actually did that. So those details are really, really impressive and important. Okay, next up, I want to show you guys the profiles of 2 students. Let's take a look at this guy who applied to Purdue. I think this is an international student. And keep in mind the rubric that we just looked at over here. That is not the rubric, that's something else. Where is the rubric? Too many tabs. Here it is. Here's the rubric. And as we're taking a look at this Purdue app, I want you guys to figure out, is this kid at a 1, at a 2? This is the same rating, by the way, that admission officers use. Like they'll literally say, this student is a rating 2 in this category. This student is a rating 1 in that category. So this rubric was created by studying old rubrics, you know, taking a look at Harvard's and Stanford's. We didn't just like make this up out of thin air, all right? So co-authored research paper, looking good. Published in IJSR. I'm not sure I would put this as first. I kind of want to know, like, all right, so this took about 100 hours, pretty significant, related to aerospace. I don't think this is the most like prestigious journal, but definitely solid academics. By the way, I mentioned this last time, research has now become more of like, not a nice to have, it's kind of like a requirement, especially for STEM applicants. 10 years ago, maybe less than 30% of applicants had research. These days, more than 80% of students have research. It's like if you don't have research, it's like not having a good GPA or test score. It's kind of expected. Same thing with passion projects. Passion projects are kind of expected as well. I believe this journal is actually a little bit more prestigious. We have community service over here. The numbers aren't that crazy impressive, but still, like, I think here it's better to talk about your impact on the students and like the people, if your numbers aren't crazy impressive. Same thing here. It's a little bit weird to put an initiative that's only like under 30 hours. This might be better to even just like write about in an essay instead of putting it here. One thing that's hurting a lot of students is like you need to have activities you've been doing for 3 or 4 years. Obviously, like we can't rewind the clock, but if you are a junior and you want to make your activities look more impressive, just the other metric that you can invest more into is just more hours per week, right? So I'm seeing a really strong STEM focus. And when you're applying to top schools, even Stanford, MIT, they want to know that you're like more than just an engineer, especially if you're like coming from an Asian background. Adding in just like a slight twist in the humanities to some extent or art helps so much. It's crazy. Like like instead of pursuing musical gold and getting your 10th CS award or tech award, try to get something that's more a little bit of a surprise, right? Like a nice twist. This is cool though. Robo Wars. An executive board. I'm not seeing that much like leadership in terms of school. We have one executive board here, and then a lot of the other stuff seems to be like initiatives that the student founded. And if you're an international student, the admission officer will be thinking to themselves, like, how legit is this? And also, like, everything was started in 11th and 12th grade. So that might be a little bit confusing to them, or at the very least, you want to kind of assuage their doubts and be like, oh, this is really legit. How is it legit? By getting something called the stamp of legitimacy. So that means that if you are doing a new initiative, you are winning some kind of award, something like that. So the student, I believe, is an international student from, I want to say India, but the bar for international students is like you have to be one of the 10 or 20 best students in the country to really stand a shot at a top 10 school. If you're going for Purdue, though, yeah, definitely the bar is lower, and I would still say their odds are good. In terms of our rubric, let me close some of these tabs. In terms of our rubric over here, I don't think it was truly unusual or world class quite yet. Head of national, I think it's actually closer to a 2. Closer to a 2. For international students, your odds are going to be pretty much halved on this rubric over here. Have these odds. Okay, this can be solved by having incredible essays. It could be solved by having, yeah, some other twists, athletics, academics. Let's just take a look at the essay. And I won't read it out loud, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think of this essay. When it comes to the essay, we also have a rubric, and our rubric has 9 points. I mention this every week, but if you are like at an 8 or 9, we've never had a student who scored an 8 or 9 and not get into a top 10 school. Most of the time, the essays we get on the channel are going to be between a 5 and 6. We'll see. I wonder, like, I haven't even looked at this essay, but one of the main issues that students struggle with when it comes to essays is how much of the essay is about their solutions and how much of it is about problem. Problem is things happening to you. Solution is you making things happen. All right, so let's take a look at the problem solution ratio. So anything that is considered background information is problem as well. So we have fireworks are weird. I learned this the hard way. I would stay up curled. It was the combination of this. So all this is kind of problem. And I think that the hook is a little bit on the weaker side. There's just like a tremendous bang, and the student is a little interested in fireworks. And I find myself wondering kind of like why. So they convince their parents to buy some fireworks. Something is strange. I still feel like the student is kind of passive. That's the other thing. You have to be a superhero in your own story, right? You have to be the main protagonist. I'm not convinced that this is a lot of like very impressive solution yet. Solution is either the student growing or them helping other people. This is a little bit of like action, but it's still not like enough to demand admission. So the fear wasn't just mine. This is a really common problem. Like students begin with background, and then I expect to see some sort of solution, and you're growing, you're helping people, and then instead actually there's another problem. So I had to come up with an idea. Creating a barrier. People are getting hurt. I honestly think it would be better to begin the essay here. Like students are getting hurt, and so the student decided to do something about it. I would just cut out all this. I don't think it's really helping their case of getting into their dream school. This is cool, creating a barrier and using these mosaics of art. All right, now we see a very classic sort of scientific experimental, oops, the student is kind of building something. Good. I just wish we got here way sooner, like paragraph 2 instead of paragraph 4. The next thing that we want to see is how this student is helping other people. This is a really classic mistake that I call kind of like students in a cave. Let's pretend the student's name is, I don't know, Jay. We'll just say like, okay, student J is in a cave. They're doing things, they're building things by themselves. I think we also want to see a little bit more like scientific principles, like really show off your intellectual muscles here and academic rigor. Okay, I got a reply and I went to all my friends' houses. So we have more problem over here. But then all of a sudden people showed up. I think there's a bit of a gap between the problem and the solution. Like if nobody is showing up, how did this student convince people to show up? Or over here, they're saying it's no fun, it's dangerous. And I expect them to build a solution that solves the problem of safety. And I don't think that's like really crystal clear yet. Let's take a look at the ending. So I think that the reflection also leaves much to be desired. I can see that the student kind of is going for like almost like a double problem solution approach. So for those of you who don't know, a double problem solution, one of the best formulas that I recommend is you begin with a sort of personal problem, a more intellectual problem, and then, am I still sharing my screen? Are people able to see? Yeah, I think so. You begin with a personal intellectual problem, then you solve this using academic curiosity and research. It's kind of where the student is going, but the execution was off. Then the second half is a more like societal problem, and they solve this through selflessness, community, leadership, things like that. But I didn't see, we need like this raw, beautiful moment where the student like saved a life using their invention, something like that would really help. I would say that right now, this essay is about between like a 5 and a 6. So that's kind of the problem. I think the execution is a bit off and there's still not enough really impressive solution quite yet. Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I think this is a really classic example of a student, like STEM students, international students, them showing their profile and trying to make their story work. Then here's the other thing too. In your main Common App essay, if you're like an Asian STEM student, I almost recommend not talking about STEM. You can write about STEM in your Y major essay, something that would make way more sense. Let me take a look at some of the comments over here. So, all right. Yeah, if you guys want your profile reviewed on the channel, I'm going to send over the link again. And again, if you guys want to schedule a free intro call with me, I attached that earlier. But here's the form. I will share the 2 rubrics. All right, I'll just send over everything in the Google chat. Let me know if you guys are able to open it. And then I'll also attach, yeah, I'd say closer to a 5 as well. I agree with me on goalie. And then if you guys want to schedule a free intro call with me, and then I will link the 2 rubrics in the chat as well. Cool. Hopefully it works and you guys are able to open everything. Nice. All right, this next student we're going to take a look at is a junior. Sorry, what am I saying? This next student we're going to take a look at is a freshman in college, and they're looking to transfer. So I think this is going to be a really great case study for you all to investigate and learn from. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we are creating a free transfer guide, and it will be published this week. By the way, guys, I spent literally 100 hours making this video. It's like a free Ivy League masterclass. I don't know if you guys have had the chance to see it. I'm going to link it in the chat below. Like everything that I've learned in the past 5-6 years, I put my heart and soul into this video, and I would check it out. It's just like free Ivy League masterclass, no gatekeeping. Okay, let's take a look at the student who's looking to transfer. How hard is it to transfer to a top college as a sophomore? It depends on the school. The normal transfer acceptance rates are like 3 to 5%, I would say. But I think that's because people are approaching it kind of improperly. And you can study some of the transfer rates per school. Some of them have crazy high successful transfer rates. For example, Berkeley. But some of them have quotas where they're required, to have some percentage of students from California transfer from community college to these schools. It's a very complicated topic. Again, I'll be making a more detailed video about it. But if I had to distill transfer admissions, or for those of you who are like gap years students, and yeah, some of you guys who are watching this as juniors or seniors, you may get into your dream school, find out it's not a great fit, and be interested in transferring. So I would pay attention here. You need a few key ingredients. One is really great rec letters. But the tricky thing is that you're only talking to your professor for one semester, right? So you have to show up to pretty much every office hours, ping them every week or two. Rec letters are really key. And then basically your activities from 9th and 10th grade don't really count. They care about 11th and 12th grade activities and what you're doing this summer, what new clubs you joined, how you instantly made an impact, things like that. So when you are also transferring, they really don't want you to recycle any of your essays whatsoever. I would highly recommend talking about events from the past 6 months. And in some ways, it's a little bit less of like an emotional story and it's more matter of fact. But yeah, let's take a look at this particular student over here who goes to a good school. He goes to UVA, University of Virginia. And actually, that's the school where my sister attended. And yeah, so he's interested in mechanical engineering from the looks of it. He has taken lots of STEM classes as well. Founded a nonprofit, collected tennis balls. He did an engineering project already at UVA, which is really good. And he did laughing dragon kung fu. Love it. So this student has done a lot at UVA in like a short amount of time. Or maybe are they from Charlottesville? It's a little bit confusing. Maybe they were born and raised in Charlottesville. This says 2014. That's 12 years of experience. Pretty cool. I would definitely write about this. This is an insanely cool activity. A lot of Asian students don't have something athletic. So if you do something athletic, write about it, please, especially if it's something not so stereotypical. In some ways, this is actually not that stereotypical if you talk about lion dance or a special weapon, as opposed to just like normal punching boards. We have some really good research as well. Overall, I wouldn't say that this is a crazy extracurricular profile. If I'm taking a look at the rubric, it kind of rings more like a 2, maybe between a 2 and a 3. And so that is a little bit of the challenge. If you're trying to transfer to like a top university, then you need at least 1 or 2 national, international awards. You know, your research being published in a journal, you winning a national kung fu competition, all that helps and counts for sure. But let's take a look at the essay. All right. So this is a really, really classic transfer prompt. How would, we want to get to know you better as a person and a student. This is so key, guys. I think everyone just ends up talking more about who they are as a student. But here's the thing, your rec letters will talk about your academics and your transcript covers your academics. So please spend more time talking about your character, your leadership, examples of humility, morality, ethics. They're more interested in that. This student decided to write about their nonprofit, which I'm not exactly sure makes the most sense. I think for this one, this particular prompt, they're looking to see like, okay, I started in high school interested in X. I developed that passion further in senior year. When I got to UVA, things changed. Now, my 5-year goal is to do this, this, and this. You want to be really crazy specific when it comes to what is your, like, what kind of job do you want after you graduate? And why would Brown be the most logical place to help you get there? This is a fine topic. I just think it might be better for a different school. Sorry, different essay. It's a little bit like, I think, a bit too obsessed with Brown, but not explaining why. So they are kind of interested in knowing more of like Brown specifics. We need proper nouns. And if you guys aren't adding like 3 to 5 proper nouns for a prompt like this, you're not really doing it right. I would not write about like this kind of moment of rejection. I think it feels a little bit cliche and a little bit off. I'm more interested in the solution than the problem. Okay. I think that the approach to this prompt is quite off. And again, I think there's way too much background information and not enough details when it comes to the actual academics. So this is what I'm talking about, where sometimes the profile looks strong, but the approach to the question is really, really off. I would say this is like a 5, mainly just because, not because the writing is bad, but because it just requires a very significant restructuring. super simple way to approach this prompt, but like when it comes to supplemental essays, in particular transfer essays, the prompt is king. So I wish I could type, but the first thing that you need to mention is like, oh, growing up in middle school, high school, my goal was always X. When I say goal, focus on an academic goal, a professional goal. For me, it would be like, oh, my dream was to be a diplomat, you know, somebody who negotiated XYZ issues between China and America. Let's say I'm really interested in cultural exchange. So maybe somebody who's, I would say for years, I've been really interested in this position. That's how I would approach this prompt. This is really, really good advice for any of the questions and say, why our school, why this major? Whether you're transferring graduate school or high school, that's how I would approach this prompt. Then you want to show that things changed when you went to UVA. Okay, so going to UVA, like it's really weird that the student who's studying mechanical engineering doesn't really talk about that at all. And even mechanical engineering for an Asian student is pretty common. So you have to get very specific within what dimension of mechie, right? And then you want to say, okay, once I got to UVA, I was hit with like a dose of reality, or I realized research isn't what I want. I want to do something way more technical. I want to do something more hands-on. So that's why I plunged myself headfirst into robots or this, like some sort of professional experience. Okay, cool. Now my goal has changed slightly. I'm still interested in mechie in this particular field, but I want to do this job. I want to do something like this. Now here's why Brown is the best possible place to get the foundation to get here, right? To get to this end goal. That it's a very, very classic approach. But for most of you guys, I feel like you're walking into the kitchen and trying to like toss in random ingredients and make like essay salad. And this is a formula, a recipe that just makes life so much easier. Once you have mastered this recipe, then we can tweak it and make it a bit more unique. But for a prompt like this, that's how I would outline this. I think beginning with a very good outline is just going to save you so much pain and time and get you much better results. So that's how I would workshop this essay. All right, let me stop sharing my screen. I'm going to answer some questions and curious to hear what you guys think. Okay, please do this next again. Month, the same live chat. Oh, I'll do this again next month. Okay, I can't find good ideas for CS projects. And I'm not into robotics. I would start with who do you want to help? Like pick 3 people you want to help. Then you can find a CS solution. So maybe the person you want to help is a small business owner. Maybe the person you want to help is your younger sibling, and you created like a personalized tutor using an AI just for him, right? He was really struggling with one particular concept. You're like, I created this really the world's best cellular respiration private tutor using some AI I coded or built. But that's how I would begin. Okay, we have Roasted Humor. You look Ethiopia, prestigious school. My grades were fine. On an academic level, I'm not sure that, again, if you're applying from Ethiopia, you kind of have to be like in the best in your country. I have EC that made a tutoring channel. I think to know in leadership, okay, I built Roblox and I have a channel. Based on this information, it sounds like if we were to look at the rubric, you'd be closer to like a 2 across the board, a 2 rating. And so I would probably not shoot your shot at a crazy selective school, but more like top 20 range and an ED to a school like Rice or Vanderbilt, and that would help so much. By what grade should you know what you want to do? Really good question, super duper good question. And I would, the short answer is check out this video, because the Ivy League Masterclass. You want to know your edge, your spike, like what kind of focus and niche you want to invest into by the end of 10th grade and start winning awards in that category between 10th and 11th grade. That's the short answer. All right, guys. So I hope this was helpful. I will be back soon, and stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, leave a nice comment. If I forget, remind me, but I'll try to attach all the rubrics and Google Docs that I referenced today in the comments. My wife wants me to eat and hang out with her. So I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks for joining.